What's up, Culture Warriors? Brett Smith from Full Spectrum Culture here. I want to talk about where we are with James Gunn since his official firing by Disney a couple weeks ago, and also touch upon where I see Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 going, because James Gunn is not out of the game with regard to the franchise. He may not be sitting in the director's chair at this point, but that still leaves the issue of his script, which is still attached to the film. Now, last week, Alan Horn, who is the chairman of Disney and Bob Iger's second-in-command, had a sit-down with James Gunn to clear the air after the cast and some fans had been calling for the disgraced director to be reinstated. The meeting was civil and professional, but Horn stood by his decision to let the director go. Kevin Feige, who runs Marvel Studios, was supposed to attend this meeting but was out of town. However, Kevin has confirmed he's standing by Disney's decision to fire James Gunn. What makes this meeting all the more interesting is that just days before it went down, some really disturbing photos of James Gunn surfaced. The photos show Gunn dressed as a priest, surrounded by women dressed as young children, all attending a To Catch a Predator themed party. Now, for some context, To Catch a Predator was a Dateline NBC program hosted by Chris Hansen that covered confronting pedophiles who were trying to make contact with kids ages 12 to 15. After the predators were confronted, they were arrested by local police. The series featured 12 investigations after first appearing in 2004. The photos of Gunn and the other participants are extremely creepy and really bizarre, and I'm sure it did not help Gunn in his meeting with Alan Horn. If anything, it just added fuel to the fire and more credence for Horn to cut loose of this guy, because he is toxic and damaged goods at this point. As if the To Catch a Predator photos weren't bad enough, last week saw photos and blog postings from Gunn in which he brags about beating up his Asian midget girlfriend because he couldn't cram her into his mini fridge. The photos show his ex-girlfriend posing inside of suitcases and luggage, and one in which she sports a black eye. Again, Gunn said this was all just a joke and meant to be entertaining. I mention all of this because Gunn is still attached at this point to Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 because he wrote the script. It's up in the air whether Disney and Marvel will push forward with his script, but I can see it going one of two ways. The best path for Disney and Marvel at this stage is to scrap James Gunn's script and start fresh with a new director and a new writer. Getting rid of Gunn can't just be kicking him out of the director's chair. They also need to get every last bit of stink that Gunn brings to the franchise off at this point. The only way to sanitize this franchise of Gunn is to put as much distance from him and the franchise as possible. Bringing in a new heavyweight and well-known director and writing team is the best way to accomplish this. Disney and Marvel need to focus the conversation on the future, which is a new director, new script, new vision, and everything new for the franchise. It has to be so over the top that it outshines the Gunn firing and controversy, especially considering more and more disturbing photos and tweets continue to surface about this guy. It won't be easy to shift focus for Marvel and Disney from Gunn to the new director, but at this point, it's the only way they can save this franchise. This doesn't have to be like Indiana Jones 4, which took many years, or the mythical Ghostbusters script starring the original cast that was in the works forever. Guardians of the Galaxy is a sci-fi writer's dream. Fun characters straight out of Pulp Fiction with an emphasis on humor and action instead of social justice. They could pull together a script quickly, but they need to get moving. Another way it could go is that Disney and Marvel decide to keep James Gunn's script to placate to the disgruntled fans and the cast, namely David Bautista, who has been emphatic in his disgust over the firing of Gunn and going so far as describing working for Disney without Gunn as nauseating. Poor baby. Now, a new director will undoubtedly put his own spin or polish on the script, but I can see them keeping the basic treatment of Gunn's existing script and building off of it. If they do go this route, expect to see James Gunn get a screen credit, like based on the story by James Gunn, or they could just give Gunn a producer's credit. This is one way which Disney and Marvel might think they can have their cake and eat it too. The idea is that they retain the fans who are pissed that Gunn was fired by keeping his script and count on the fans who were happy by the firing or indifferent not to notice or just not care. James Gunn might not be there in the director's chair, but he would be there in spirit via his script. This will not fly with the fans who praised his firing. I think anything that has to do with James Gunn, even if it's his treatment, will be a deal breaker for a lot of fans, and they will boycott. They'll just walk. It's a risk going with his script, but I wouldn't put it past Disney and Marvel to try. They're now floating this idea out there to see what reaction would be from all of you. Disney would love for all of us to believe this game is over and they've moved on to the next court, but at most, the good guys have a slight advantage. It could go south in as many ways as Guardians' plans can in the first half of, any one of their movies. So, anyway, over the weekend, it was reported that Guardians Volume 3, which had just started pre-production, has been officially put on hold. Marvel Studios halted everything from storyboards to production design to set design. Everything stopped dead in its tracks, and no news on when it will get cranked back up, nor is there a release date set for the movie. The only reason they would have started pre-production is if they had a script to work from. Putting a hold on all pre-production tells me they are seriously considering scrapping James Gunn's script if they haven't already, and starting fresh with a new creative team. In related news, I've been giving it a lot of thought as to who would be a great fit to replace James Gunn for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. And I know I've said it needs to be a heavyweight, well-known director, and there are plenty of those. But let me throw a curveball at you, little breaker ball. Another way they could go is an unconventional route, but one which will create a lot of buzz, which is what they need to help change the conversation from Gunn to the future. I think one of the very best teams Disney and Marvel could hire to direct and write the next installment of the Guardians of the Galaxy franchise are the Duffer Brothers. Who are the Duffer Brothers, you may ask? Well, they created and produced and directed the massively successful Netflix series Stranger Things. Yes, I know Stranger Things is a TV series and not a movie, but these Netflix series are really nothing more than a 13-hour movie they drop on you all at once. Plus, countless TV directors have made the jump to the silver screen. The Duffer Brothers would be an unconventional choice, but would be a perfect fit for Guardians of the Galaxy. One of which is their affinity and expertise of 80s pop culture. They have experience directing an ensemble cast and doing justice to a lot of characters instead of concentrating on just one or two. They have shown they can create fantastic and terrifying villains. And we all know the heroes are only as good as the villains, and frankly, the villains in the Guardians movies have been weak, to say the least. So there's definitely room for improvement with the villains, and these guys would knock it out of the park. Plus, the Duffer Brothers can do comedy in a far more authentic way, far better than some of the forced humor in past Guardians movies. Make no mistake, choosing the Duffer Brothers would be a very bold and, like I said, an unconventional choice, no doubt, shaking the pillars of Hollywood. But that's exactly the kind of scenario Marvel and DC needs to focus off of James Gunn. They need a new story for everyone to focus on, and the Duffer Brothers would provide that story. Anyway, what do you think? Can you live with a James Gunn script for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, or is it a deal breaker? Does it matter to you, and why? Would the Duffer Brothers be a team that you think could take over the franchise and succeed? If so, why? If not, why? Let me know in the comments section and on social media. I'm interested to know. Also, don't forget to like, subscribe, make sure you're still subscribed, and hit the bell for notifications to get more full spectrum culture videos. Don't forget to check out the Indigogo campaign for Trump's Space Force, which I think has 4 or 5 days left at this point. We just passed $63,000. We're on our way to 64, and we're standing at over 1,300 backers strong. We had 2 huge media hits last week with Cassandra Fairbanks at Gateway Pundit, who's a good friend, and my buddy across the pond, James Delingpole, over at Breitbart, who both covered Trump's Space Force, and it's given us some unprecedented interest. So we've extended the campaign to allow more people to enlist and back us. So make sure and do your part. Enlist today. If you've already enlisted, share the links far and wide and help spread the word about the campaign. Help support talented artists like Chuck Dixon, Graham Nolan, Timothy Lim, Mark Pellegrini, Dave Dorman, and myself, who are creating original content for all of you. If you want to see pop culture created with a center-right message, or any message besides that of the regressive left and SJW losers, we need to take a break from enriching the usual suspects like James Gunn and the weirdos and pedophiles in Hollywood and support creators on our own side. We appreciate your support. Anyway, have a great night, and I'll speak to you all very soon. Thanks.